the White House was the big scene today, but so was Capitol Hill, where Republicans are getting ready to take majority in the Senate. Today, John Thune elected by secret battle as the Senate Majority Leader come January, setting the stage for him to replace retiring Senate Mitch McConnell. We should say retiring from leadership. He has held the top Senate GOP leadership job for the past 18 years. Thune beating out fellow Republicans, including Rick Scott of Florida, who was set to be the so-called MAGA pick, and John Cornyn of Texas. Joining us right now is none other than Fox congressional correspondent Chad Pergram. And Chad, not only do you have the details, but you, my friend, are probably the best person to speak to as to what exactly happened today. Fireworks really across the board on Capitol Hill. Chad, can you hear us?
Yeah, it was very interesting to have this leadership race. We've not had a competitive leadership race among Senate Republicans since 2006. This was not terribly close in the end. There were three candidates, as you say, and per the Senate rules, the person on the first ballot who got the fewest votes had to drop out. That was Rick Scott from Florida. He only scored 13 votes. You know, he was pushed by Elon Musk, who is now an ally of President-elect Trump. So then it was down to John Cornyn and John Thune. Thune is the current minority whip. John Cornyn had been the majority whip, and some Republicans were hoping that they would break a little bit further away from Mitch McConnell, who has been the minority leader and has been the Senate Republican leader for years. The final vote tally there was 29 to 24. And just a little bit ago, after Thune was elected, he had a conversation on the phone with President-elect Trump. And the biggest challenge for him is going to be trying to get through some of these controversial cabinet picks. He's talked about the advice and consent responsibilities of the Senate. Republican senators say, hey, we take that very seriously. We just don't want to ram some of those through. But President-elect Trump, he has talked about recess appointments. That's where both the House and Senate have to be out at the same time. And that's harder to do than you could imagine. And for a certain period of time, and then have somebody go in without a Senate vote. It kind of bypasses the confirmation process. But Thune indicated that he might be open to that. The other thing that he said is that he is still going to maintain the legislative filibuster. Back to you.
All right, Chad, clearly that happened on the Senate side, and Thune not always the biggest fan of Donald Trump, although it seems like in this last presidential campaign he has certainly become closer with the now president-elect. But Chad, let's talk about the House, because this is really where things get interesting. Securing the lead here with 218 votes. They've got the majority in the House, so now they have both chambers and obviously the executive as well. But this is a thin majority. This is not something that Speaker Johnson, I'm sure, is happy to have. He would like to have a larger majority here. There's still couple seats out there, but even people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are saying, listen, I don't know if we're going to be able to hold on to this, if we're going to get a lot of things through. And the midterms are coming up quickly, too.
Yeah, I should point out that Fox News has technically not called the House of Representatives, although it is definitely trending that way, Marina. But they're within a couple of votes here, and it's frankly hard to see how Republicans would not have control of the House. But here's what's interesting. They spent billions of dollars on this midterm election, and at the end of the day, the majority for Republicans is going to be about the same. They're going to have about 221, 222 seats. That majority is going to drop down just a little bit here because Elise Stefanik from New York, she's going to be the UN ambassador. Michael Waltz, he's going to be the national security advisor. He's a congressman from Florida. So this was something that I asked the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, the other day. He said, we really can't afford to lose too many others because on any given day, you have trouble with people getting in because their plane is delayed or they're sick or they were in a car accident. I mean, as I always say, I always have trouble getting 435 people in the same room at the same time, Marina. I know you don't have that problem, but that's the problem here on Capitol Hill. So if they keep dropping down that majority right there, then the Democrats effectively have the majority. You can only lose, 3 to 4 seats on any given roll call vote because the Democrats probably won't help them with much of that agenda. And that was what bedeviled this Republican majority over the past 2 years. The same old problems that they had over the past couple of years will be visited here. However, the difference is that they have President-elect Trump in the White House. And these Republicans, they are more on board with him than they were when he was elected back in 2016. It's a smaller majority, though. But again, as I always say, it's about the math. And it's going to be very hard to work that algebra on Capitol Hill. It's going to be hard in the Senate, too, frankly.
Yeah, definitely. You need more of a supermajority. Even the president-elect saying we got +4, +5 seats, and the speaker kind of leadership not looking too keen on that. Chad Pergram.
And thanks, Chad, because a lot of us would have been in the dark about all of this that you just broke down. Thank you very, very much.
Only the best there. Chad Pergram with Chad, I'm being told we've got a little bit more time here before we had to break. Things kind of changed here on the fly, as you know, on live television. Really quickly, what's next now? Because you talked about it. It is a thin majority in the House. Like you said, even the Senate not looking great, although they do have that vote from J.D. Vance if they need, at least now, as with the VP-elect. What is next for the Hill? What can the Democrats do before January 20th, if anything at all?
Well, they really can't do much right now. The biggest things they have to do is they have to fund the government. That has to happen by the 20th of December. And probably whatever course that President-elect Trump wants Republicans to take, that's the course they will take. Keep in mind that the Republican majority has relied on the Democratic minority to provide votes to keep the government open and deal with the debt ceiling and all those controversial votes over the past 2 years. Democrats will probably push back from the table on that and say, you're going to be in the majority, you figure this out yourself. They also have to provide disaster funding. They have to reload the FEMA coffers as well after the big hurricanes in North Carolina and Florida. There's a defense bill, a defense authorization bill that is outstanding. And then they also have to deal with a farm bill. All that has to get done by January 3rd. But I'll tell you, after the first of the year, the big thing is going to be the debt ceiling. Sometime in that first quarter of the year, they have to raise the debt ceiling. And that is something that has always been a struggle on Capitol Hill. And Republicans, even though they have these other things in their agenda, how do they deal with that? Because if they don't address the debt ceiling, the markets crash, and that's an economic calamity.
Yeah, and we know you're looking ahead at midterm elections, and very quickly you could lose control there. Okay, Chad Pergram for us. Again, now we are going. Thank you, as always, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
Hard at work today with a busy cycle from Capitol Hill.